We want to play a game, Live or Die. With John Kramer dead, who will pick up the torch? Who will remember these movies? Will we make it through this franchise, or will we want to gnaw off our own legs to escape? Welcome to the Mostly Pot Out of Night. Mostly, I'm Graveyard, joined by my co-host, Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 64 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. We are putting this out, hopefully, twice a week, just for the month of October. Then we'll get a little reprieve and watch some good movies, starting it back up in November. But join us as we continue our journey to Saw X. There are 10 of these things now, and who knows, maybe Saw X, Jigsaw will go to space. I doubt it, but you never know.
I'm pretty sure, not yet. Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future, yes. So once again, like last time, we are doing things a little bit different. Because these plots are non-linear, to even say the least. They kind of just jump all over the place. So we will be discussing the A plot, the B plot, and sometimes C plot in order of, just everything together. Discuss the traps separately as not part of the plot. And we are still doing number of tetanus shots out of 10 because they even make a joke about it in these movies of you might have to get your tetanus shot. Did you catch that?
Well, I mean, you should anyway.
Right. But Amanda's talking to Hoffman. Is like, oh, you better get your tetanus shot.
Whatever, Amanda.
Yes. Amanda and Jigsaw have been dead for the next 3 movies, but they're still in it quite a bit, surprisingly, after death.
And not like Basket Case, where it's just the same scene from the first movie played over and over again. No, it's like new scenes with them are filmed and put in.
Yes. Let's just say the Amanda and John Kramer part, B plot or A plot of Saw 3 is its own movie at this point in time.
Yeah, probably.
Just because of these 6 movies. Well, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I don't remember Saw 3, but yeah, they go back to John Kramer's deathbed, to say the least, over and over and over in flashbacks of flashbacks and all that jazz.
Well, I mean, if your main villain dies, I guess they don't want to like hand it off is the problem. Like they do hand it off, but then they don't.
Right.
Like they hand it off like, oh yeah, there's new people doing it. But we're going to keep showing John Kramer anyway. And he's going to keep saying he's going to do it beyond the grave, even though it's not him doing it. It's someone else doing it, but we still give him all the credit.
And he's only been dead for like a week by the time Saw 6 is done.
Right.
Yes, we established, I think this is about 6 months, 6 to 7 months altogether for Saw 1 through 6 in the lovely, city of Detroit. Because, well, to say the least,
it's not actually Detroit.
I know. But what?
I'm just saying, don't confuse the listeners. We call it Detroit because it has the heart of Detroit. It feels like Detroit, but it is in reality an unnamed city.
Right, but there's also in 6 an abandoned zoo / aquarium, such reptile house. So
yeah,
still feels like Detroit to me.
Well, I mean, there's zoos.
Yeah. All right, so let's just kind of go over what do you want to even call the A plot and B plot. A plot being Detective Riggs and his story, and then the B plot like Hoffman and
Hoffman in this
Strom.
movie is just part of Riggs's story. I mean, really, it's just Riggs's story, and then the B plot follows him.
B plot being Strom and Riggs, or not Strom and Hoffman.
Well, Strom and Perez.
Yeah.
In the fourth one, Hoffman is just tied up in a chair the whole time.
That is true. So we'll call the B plot.
Hoffman doesn't become Hoffman until the very end of this movie, but he just sits there tied up in a chair for almost the whole movie.
Yeah, so we'll call the B plot the events of Saw 3.
I mean, that's fair. Sure.
So anyway, as all good detectives do in the Saw franchise, they get too obsessed with Jigsaw, so therefore they are punished. And this is Riggs' story, who was part of Saw 1 through 3. He was the head of what I'd say the SWAT team.
Was he in the first one?
Yeah.
When was he in the first one?
He was following I thought he was, maybe he wasn't.
I know he was in the second one. That's true. I just don't think he was in the first one. He's been in every one since the second one, for sure.
They probably said he was one of those people that helped raid the wire guy. But he's kind of been there. But anyway, so Riggs is now too obsessed with Detective Matthews, who's been missing for 6 months. Like I said, they explicitly state that this is the only time frame we essentially get.
Right. This time frame doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No.
Because, like, if he's been missing for 6 months, that means that they had a definitive, like, confession and everything from Jigsaw 6 months before everything else, right?
Yes.
So when did the plot of 1 take place? Because 1, they know who Jigsaw is, but they don't know who the guy is.
Yes.
So in what order do these things happen, and when is that 6-month break?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say it's got to be after 2.
Yeah.
And so there's a 6-month gap between 2 and 3 then?
It has to be.
Okay, yeah. I guess it's after 2. There's a 6-month gap.
Yeah. So, the movie starts off with autopsy of John Kramer, when as you point out, that he was coating a cassette tape in wax and swallowed it, and it's Hoffman who then gets called in because he's been part of this case from the very beginning, listens to the tape, and Jigsaw's like, even after death, you won't do that. Then we get into a game, which we'll get into a little bit later, and we get into the traps, if you will. Anyway, they're kind of going around, and now they have a robot, and they find the Detective Dizzy body, and they're like, there's no way Jigsaw or Amanda picked her up and put her up there. Jigsaw was pretty much dead and dying.
Right,
and Amanda's way too small to do it.
Right, but Hoffman does make a good point. I mean, obviously he's lying, but he's an engineer. They could have worked a pulley system very easily to get her up there. I mean, again, she weighed, what did they say? She weighed like 120 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that difficult.
Right.
You can do it. There's easier ways to do it. It's not the definitive smoking gun like they think it is.
Yeah. And Riggs is going through a door that they know isn't rigged, and he just went through there because he's determined to find out what happened to Matthews and Detective Dizzy and all them. So now he's gone too far.
Well, yeah, but he saw movement through the window.
Yes.
That's why he freaked out and ran, because he thought he was going to save them. But the movement was just a rat that was inside of her body cavity.
Yes.
And she had been dead.
Yeah. But yeah, we are introduced to FBI agent Strom and Perez. They're like, okay, we're trying to figure this out, and Hoffman's just scoffing at them the entire time, I feel.
I think that's his default stance.
I think so too. He's resting scoff face. So Rick goes back home, and his wife's like, I'm going to take care of my mother. You gotta let this go. You can't save everybody. And then Riggs and Hoffman are both captured, and Riggs' game starts. He's told that Detective Matthews is alive, and he has 90 minutes, but all he has to do is wait. He cannot save everyone. In his house, I mean, whoever this is working up really damn fast in his house. Or how long is he knocked unconscious for? to set up all this stuff in his house.
Like I said, stuff like this doesn't need an explanation, right?
Right.
Like putting all of these pictures and machines and shit all over his fucking house. No one bats an eye at that. But oh no, a woman is hanging from the ceiling. Gotta be another person here. Like,
right.
Give me a break.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets introduced to the first trap, which we'll discuss in a bit. He does save her, and then she starts trying to stab him, and well, he dispatches of her. Yeah, so he wants to was it first one is I see what I see.
Yeah.
So he's being like, okay, like he's being led to try to understand Jigsaw and his motives. Like, in order to know me, you have to be able to understand what I do.
Yeah, I think there's three. There's see what I see, feel what I feel,
and save who I save.
Save how I save. And then like in the last part of this, there's one that says judge how I judge.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that was like a deleted scene or something, but you only see it for like a split second.
Yeah.
But there's not a trap designed around that
one. Right. Yeah, so anyway, we are introduced. We've had hints of Jigsaw's wife, Jill, and then we get flashbacks to all about, let's call this plot B, of her being pregnant, that, her and Jigsaw were, having a kid, and, well, she, all the stuff open up goes in more detail in number 5, but she works in a clinic, and she is, doorknobbed in the belly and has a miscarriage. Yeah. And so, this is kind of what sets Jigsaw down the road. He gets that news, and he gets his news of cancer, and we go flashback again to where he tried killing himself in the car. And everything like that. So, yeah, he kind of goes next to a hotel where he had a key from the last trap / game, and he was told to go to this hotel. He just kind of goes up there, just everyone's like, hey, what are you doing up there? And this begs a question to me, which we'll discuss later on, is, okay, if he's just going up there and has a hotel key, he is severely questioned. But whoever brought all the gear up to the hotel, no question about that, in any way, shape, or form. That's a lot of stuff to bring up there.
Well, based on that hotel, they probably just gave the guy $20 and he stopped giving a shit.
Right. So anyway, he's told, hey, the owner there, has a secret room, and you have to understand what he was doing, and you have to kind of feel what I feel, because yeah, this guy is a rapist. He has murdered people there, and he needs to pay. So he kind of lures him to the trap, and we'll discuss the trap kind of again when we get the trap part. But yeah, so essentially he has to go through there, and he actually then puts someone into their own test, into their own game, to see how they do. And this entire time he's has steps along the way. He's getting, I think, a code, the number, or is it letters? Right.
He doesn't figure that out until the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we get a flashback then to the school where he, his first interaction with someone where he was showing he cared too much was a girl being clearly abused by, I don't know if that's supposed to be her dad and principal, or just the principal and his wife.
I think it's the principal and his wife acting as his secretary, but covering for him.
Yeah. And we're introduced to a couple people there. So anyway, they're in their own trap, and this is, save who I save. Will you, if she saves herself, will you let her go at the expense of this other guy dying?
Well, when he shows up, the guy's already gone.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get into that trap, but yeah, he's trying to, make sure that they're worthy of saving.
Yeah, well, his test there was he had to just leave it alone.
Yep. But he did pull the fire alarm on his way out to make sure that she is found and taken care of. She survives. The guy she's attached to, definitely not. So they're kind of there going through it and like, oh, look, something about, I think 4 walls is later, right?
No, I mean, that happens earlier, but again, it's the FBI agents following him around, so.
Right. They're like, oh man, Riggs has gone crazy and is now carrying out it seemingly looks like Riggs is the one that's taken over for Jigsaw. That's the illusion.
Well, okay, they thought that the first time, and then they immediately changed their mind.
Yeah.
So, like, literally the next place they go to, they completely forgot that they said that the first one, and they were like, oh, look, he's trying to save people. Like, again, I don't know. They're, like, all over the place with what they're thinking. Like, and then this guy is, like, bringing Jigsaw's wife into this interrogation room and, like, hard interrogating her. Like, seriously, like, pressing her up against the wall and getting up in her face and stuff. Like, dude.
Yes, essentially Batman to Heath Ledger.
Right. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
It's like, she's tiny. I don't know. She's like 5 foot tall and like 100 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's a big dude. He's like, whatever, 6'2", but like, 250 pounds about.
Yeah.
Like, he's a big dude. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So anyway, they're at, while Strom and Perez are investigating the school scene, it's like, oh, all this happened. One of the investigators, gets impaled by a spike. And they're kind of going around the scene, and then like, oh, they find Billy, the puppet, and it seems like just his face explodes, right?
Yeah, it looked like there was like a blunderbuss underneath his face.
Yeah,
and it just like shot a bunch of glass out.
Right, and then and Perez is very, in critical condition, but didn't seem that bad.
No, she wasn't in critical condition at all. She was just in like, she got a bunch of glass in her face and in her neck. Like, she needs to go to the hospital. But like, in no way did they suggest that her life was in danger.
I mean, they do in the next movie.
Well, yeah, that's dumb. And then they immediately take it back in the one after that. It's like, I know. What?
Right. Anyway, then we get flashbacks to, say, plot B of more of Jigsaw's past, of essentially his, and this is critical here because it's going to come into play in next 2 movies, is that Cecil, the guy who killed the baby, was the first victim of Jigsaw's trap, like his very first trap. Like, so much point that like his chair wasn't strong enough to hold his weight while he was doing his test. And seemed very refined and polished in comparison to everything else that he's done. So eventually they find out that this is where more interrogation. They see the 4 walls you piece together because Jill's picture was like in every crime scene they follow. Like, where's this factory that Jigsaw owned? And Strom eventually goes there while
by himself.
That's what every cop does. They get too obsessed and they go there by themselves.
He's not even a cop. He's an FBI agent.
Oh yeah.
Like, they don't even go on site by themselves. No. Like, that's not what the FBI does.
No. So anyway, he is following around, but lo and behold, this is taking place at the same time of Saw 3. Because he's following Jeff from Saw 3 around, Stromitz. Meanwhile, the countdown's going down there. We see a guy, we're introduced to, Detective Matthews and Hoffman, in a trap themselves with someone that's clearly not Jigsaw, monitoring them with the hood over his head and watching everything and watching the 90-minute countdown that Riggs had. Detective Matthews is hanging on an ice block, and as enough ice melts, or if he tries to jump off, the water will slosh to Hoffman's side, electrocuting Hoffman in the process. And like all you have to, he's like, in Detective Matthews tries to jump off and just end it himself, and the guy's like, no, you can't do that. All you gotta do is wait, right? So Riggs eventually gets to the door, and he's like, what, 10 seconds left or 2 seconds, whatever stupid low amount of time.
1 second left.
1 second left, sorry. And he's like, and he bursts open the door. And as he does that, 2 ice blocks come down and dispatch of Detective Matthews once and for all. Hoffman is seemingly, I'd say, electrocuted. But anyway,
the water slashes over, and they said he was going to be electrocuted, so you assume that he is.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, like, jiggle around or anything. It's not like that he fakes it.
Right. And the guy who was watching all of them was like, all you had to do was wait. It wasn't that hard. So then they start shooting at each other. Riggs gets shot a couple of times and kills the guy. And there's a flashback to him from the first trap. So anyway, we do get back to the B plot of Saw 3, where we do find Jeff still alive. And then, Strom opens the door and they kind of open fire and just boom, boom, boom. Oh, Jeff's dead. All the loose ends are cleaned up from Saw 3 now. Right?
Yeah, but now there's another loose end with the special agent who they put in a trap, but he survives. I'm assuming they didn't think he would.
Right.
But he does. Which leads directly into the next
one. Well, no, he's not in the trap yet. That's the beginning of the next movie. He just gets the door closed on him by someone after he kills Jeff. And then we see that it is Hoffman who is the new Jigsaw and tells Riggs game over and closes the door.
Okay.
The next one starts off with that trap.
Okay.
Traps. I think kind of in the first, we are introduced to the first trap of 2 guys in a mausoleum with a huge contraption and stuff around their neck, pulling them. One guy's eyes are sewn shut, the other guy's mouth is sewn shut, and they start attacking each other. And we don't hear any tape. We don't hear any rules. We go straight into the trap. And yeah, and so that I found that interesting that there was nothing like that. There was no, live or die, I want to play a game type stuff. They just go at it, and one guy kills the other and then, gets the key off him and frees himself, assumingly. Because he is the guy who is in, the end game of this movie, who's watching over Hoffman and Detective Matthews. And
the one thing that I thought was great about this first trap is that one guy's eyes are sewn shut.
Yeah.
The other guy's mouth is sewn shut, right?
Yes.
And they're both attached by the neck to a chain to like a big, I don't know, camshaft engine thing in the middle.
Yeah.
And it like starts cranking them closer. So the guy that can't see is like screaming and freaking out, and he can hear the other guy. But the other guy doesn't talk because his mouth is sewn shut.
Right.
Now, I guess this is a common thing in movies. Like, if your mouth is sewn shut, you can still move your lips a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to talk. Is it going to sound like mumbling? Yeah. Is it going to not sound great? Yeah. But you can fucking communicate.
Hey, stop. There's a key on your neck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like,
instead of slash, I'm going to kill you.
Right. Exactly. They immediately like start trying to kill each other. It's like, what are you doing?
Right.
And then, of course, the guy waits until after everything is done, and then he just opens his mouth.
Right.
Okay. So like, obviously, it wasn't tied closed that hard if you were able to just rip it open. And why the fuck didn't you do that the first place?
Also, you went stabby stab with things. You could have cut your mouth open without ripping the stuff through your lips, too.
Right. Yeah, it's just completely pointless.
Yes.
But not only that, like, even if that trap went all the way, I don't think it would have killed anybody.
No.
It just would have been stuck next to the engine thing, because their collar was so big it couldn't flip around that thing.
Correct. Maybe that's why there was no rules or tape, because
but there was like a shield around the thing, so like it would have only cranked them that far.
Yep.
And then they would have been stuck there, and that would have sucked, but they weren't dying.
Right.
Like they weren't choking.
Right.
I don't know. That whole trap just didn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah, and then the guy that lived, it was the guy at the end who had some other trap attached to him still.
Right. I don't get this at all.
Which
like,
I don't think we got that explained what that was going to do to him either.
No, not at all. It was it looked like a big pincher thing attached to his back. But
Yeah.
like when he would leaned his head forward, like those pincher things were nowhere near his head.
No.
So like even if that thing went off, he would have been totally fine.
Yes.
Just like there's this other one here where a little slight spoiler. There's a girl that has that like spike thing on her chest. That very clearly, if she just leaned her head back, it wouldn't hit her head at all.
Correct.
I mean, it's like, I was like, that's like the simplest thing to avoid.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was just dumb as shit. That trap was just very stupid.
Right. Like I said, I already talked about the Matthews and Hoffman trap. And the traps then that Riggs sees along the way is that he gets a woman that's in his house. She's going to be scalped. Her hair is tied to a device that's going to pull her scalp back, and starts to, while he's trying to figure out how to stop it from turning. He eventually gets her free. And then her test is, there's going to be a cop, if a cop comes and save you, he's going to arrest you for being a prostitute. So kill him.
I don't know. I don't get that shit. Like if you're trapped in this big fucking machine, there's a hell of a lot more explaining that he would have to do why you were in that machine versus, well, I arrested her because she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, it doesn't take a fucking genius to figure out that, like, you're half fucking scalped.
Right.
You were attached to a huge machine in a house that is not yours. You don't know how you got there. Obviously, they're not going to be worried that you're a prostitute. It's not going to be the first fucking thing that happens here.
Right.
Like, just relax. Like, if she would not have tried to kill him, like, there's no repercussions.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, that was it. It wasn't like you have a slow-acting poison in your system. No, it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, kill him before he can arrest you. Like, she's a prostitute. She's probably gotten arrested like 20 times in her life. Why the fuck would she care? That would be like the last thing on her mind is kill a cop.
Right.
Like, there's no way.
Right. Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. Very dumb.
Second trap is a guy has to hook himself up, and they don't explain what, his arms and legs are tied up, which he's able to do by himself, surprisingly. I don't think Riggs touched him to get into that trap. All he did was gave him the buttons. So essentially, because the guy was a voyeur, a murderer, he had to essentially push the button, and a sigh would essentially come down and, like, get rid of his eyeballs. Stab them and essentially pull them out, my guess would be. And Riggs gave him the buttons to do it. He's able to do one eye, but, once again, only 60 seconds to do it.
I don't think an eye needs to be pulled out in order to be rendered non-functional.
No.
I think a big spike sticking in it is enough to do it.
I think so. But anyway, the guy isn't able to do it, and he's essentially, I wouldn't say quartered because it's only just his hands and his feet, but quartered.
Well, that's essentially what it is.
Right. And then the principal and wife, that was probably in a very impressive trap with the spikes, essentially because, the spikes were going through both of them. Hers were missing all her major arteries. All of his were in his major arteries. So as she pulled them out, she was killing him.
Right. But the dude didn't even try to do anything.
No.
Like, he could have tried pulling out other ones or something. I mean, anything at all. Yeah. But he did nothing but sit there and scream.
Yeah. And that's the traps.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he came in and then he was going to, like, help her pull the last spike out, but then realized, oh no, that's not what Jigsaw wants me to do. So he just left her there and let her do it herself.
Right. And Riggs's entire game was just wait. Again, it was just a wait.
Yeah. So the last trap was when Riggs opens the door, it causes the big ice block hammers to come down and smash Detective Matthews' head between the two ice hammers.
Right.
And his head explodes.
And if he would have waited 2 more seconds, none of that would have happened.
Right. Okay.
Maybe,
so like
maybe.
Well, okay. Even if that happened, right? Nothing else had to happen. Everything else would have been fine. But like everybody else was just being stupid.
Yes.
Like the other guy was like, whoa, all you had to do was wait. What's your problem? All you had to do was wait. Like, what are you doing? Your game is over. You did everything you were supposed to do. Like, what,
Leave.
why are you like trying to force the guy? And he kept saying, don't move. And he kept moving.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, he asked for it himself. It was a very unnecessary, stupid death. And then, of course, Hoffman, all you had to do to, he was in a fucking chair with wheels. All you had to do is push him off.
Yeah.
Like, that's one good shove, and he would have been out of the water.
Yep.
Yeah, so like I said, even if you did screw up and open the door, only one person had to die.
Right.
The other two were just idiots.
Yes. That's essentially the rules of this movie. You're an idiot and you're going to die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The traps in this one were not great.
No. Well, let's get into the highlights first. We always talk about the twist, right? The twist was this is the same time as essentially Saw 3.
Well, yeah, there was 2 twists. There was one was that this is happening at the same time as as Saw 3, it's concurrent thing, and then the second is that Hoffman was working with them, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I thought the guy, Hoffman seemed like a roving douchebag to say the least. But I like that in the autopsy scene, they were actually pretty consistent to detail. You're like, oh, look, there's already a hole here for us for, removing his skull. It's a good attention to detail for that.
That's an attention to detail. He already had a hole in his head, so let's keep it there.
For them, yes.
You got a low bar, man.
For this franchise,
that's
yes.
a low fucking bar. No, this franchise is better than that. That would be like a Jack Frost level screw up.
I know. Like I said, I do like the fact that they cleaned up their threats, right? It's now becoming a staple of like horror movies. If you survive the movie and you're in the next one, you're generally not going to survive the opening act. You know what I mean? Jeff, who lost his game or won his game, or Amanda lost her game, whatever. They're all just pawns to someone else's game. Was there. I wish at this point in time that they weren't just always going after the FBI agent or detective who's taking his job too seriously and just continues to run into buildings by themselves.
Yeah, he learned 0 lessons.
Correct.
Like it felt like he was going to. Like
yes.
But the last 2 he followed instructions and did what he was supposed to do.
Yes.
And then at the end he just throws it all out the window again.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the twist is good. Hoffman, a cop being part of it is a good twist as well. Those are my highlights. What about you?
I mean, I like that they have more Jigsaw backstory. I mean, that's fun. I mean, again, I don't know if it was necessary to have as much as they did, but it was nice to have a little more.
Right.
Give a little more, kind of humanity to him, I guess. I do like that the traps in this one were actually more choice-based.
Yes.
Than they have been. I felt like 2 and 3 were very, just weak. They were just, tools to kill people. They weren't really choices. They weren't, there was no game involved. It was just here, die.
Right.
And there was no way to, realistically save yourself. At least this one, again, it was kind of more towards, what, Jigsaw, what he says his rules are, is that a person has to make a choice and, again, but they'll survive if they make the right choice. And this one, I felt like they did that. I mean, the first trap was kind of stupid, because again, like you said, there's no tape, there's no game. It's like neither one of them knows what's going on. It just ends. But all the rest of them, I felt like, they brought that choice-based, trap back, and it felt a little different. Like, again, the choices that Riggs made are, the reason why things happened the way that they did. And it was a goofy thing. How do you teach a guy to wait? Like, that's bizarre. In a situation where people are, like, going to die, you can't tell people to wait. That's not how it works.
No.
But, again, at least there was the element of choice there.
Yeah.
I like that they brought that back. And then, like you said, the twists, the double twist of the time twist and the Hoffman twist, I think were interesting. I will say I have seen this movie before, and the only thing I didn't remember much. I remembered Detective Donnie Wahlberg on the ice block, right?
Yeah,
and that's about it. And then I remembered that, and then I remembered that there was like a time twist. I remember that somebody like showed up, and it was the scene, and I thought it was in 3 because I'm pretty sure this guy was a part of that scene, but it wasn't that scene. I was like, interesting. And then in this movie, it's like it was literally the same scene. It was the same guy. I was like, okay, no, it was that guy. I was right. It's just the wrong movie.
Yeah,
that's really the only thing I remember. I don't remember anything else about this movie.
No, I completely forgot it was Riggs's game.
Right. No, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Interesting.
And forgot the traps except the ice block.
Right. I was like, I didn't remember. The only thing I remembered was Donnie Wahlberg on the ice block because I was like, that's kind of vicious and that sucks.
Yeah.
That's it. And he would be looking a lot more ragged after 6 months.
Yes.
Like his facial hair was like not even an inch long. Like, okay. I know how much facial hair grows in 6 months. That is not it.
Right. Do you want to roll into your low points?
Sure.
Okay.
Low points. They make a very kind of outward statement that you have to make your own choice, right? And in this movie, they, like I said, they do an okay job of it. There's only one that I think is stupid, and it's not even really taking away the choice. It's just you don't even know they have a choice. Nobody knows what's going on. Which it goes against this whole thing. Like, he has to explain to them what's going on and why. And in that first one, he doesn't. But, again, they make a specific point about bringing that up. But again, in the other movies, the last 2 movies, that really hasn't been the case. It's like there's other people making choices for themselves that basically dictate whether you live or die, but those people don't get to make a choice. And that's how 2 and 3 was. It was like there was a lot of these things happening that the people can't make their own choices. People are making choices for them.
Right.
Which is, again, supposed to go against everything that Jigsaw believed in. So at least this one comes back with that. I just thought it was, it just kind of pissed me off that they specifically came out and said that. I was like, okay, then what about the last 2 movies? There was a lot of quiet mumbling in this movie. Like it was like where you had to like turn it up and you're like, what are they saying? There's only a few scenes, but it was bad enough. Like, it was pretty bad because I had to rewind the scenes, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. When I was even concentrating on what they were saying, it was hard to read. I probably should put on the subtitles or something. But yeah, like, I think this one, like, I did like the backstory that was there, but I was like, it feels like there's even too much backstory. Like, did we need a backstory on why he wears a pig mask?
Well, clearly, because it was the year of the pig.
I'm just saying, like, it's a scary mask. You don't need an explanation as to why you're wearing a pig mask, but no, they went that far. They like literally explained to you why he uses a pig mask. Like, I don't think we needed that. I don't think we needed to go that far. It was nice to know that, he had a wife and a child, and the child died, and that was part of his whole thing. But I think they felt they went a little too hard into it. It's nice to get backstory, but I think they spent way too much time on it. Like, Jigsaw's already dead. We already know he's dead. We don't need this much backstory for a dead guy.
Right. And I agree to that.
That's it. What about you?
I said it's such not a memorable movie overall. Like, you know, the guy with Ventures we discussed with the trap, the beginning trap, we didn't understand it, and we didn't get we changed everything we knew about the game and how the games are supposed to work. We didn't get it was a cold opening to a horror movie where there's always an explanation of the game. That's it.
Right.
They just skipped it completely. Yeah, and once again, it's just everyone else is a pawn in everyone else's game. It's only as long as if you're the person being tested, you might come out okay. Everyone else, fuck you. It seems like.
Well, like I said, and 2 and 3, I really, definitely. There's a lot of people that just did not have a choice and just died. Without there's nothing they could have done, which is technically against all the Jigsaw stands for, right?
Right.
And then in this one, they did have a choice, and some of the choices were dumb as shit, right? Like the prostitute, you have a choice, like you could either kill this cop or get arrested. I'm pretty sure she would just go with the getting arrested, nobody fucking dies there. Like if somebody catches her killing the cop, that's a hell of a lot more jail time than a prostitute. So yeah, that was a dumb choice, but at least there was a choice, at least they gave it back to people.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was like he was trying to make Riggs one of his, another one of his followers. And ultimately failed, but that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to make him see things from his point of view.
Right.
But again, I thought they did better with choice in this one than the last two.
That's true. All right. That's pretty much my low points. Number of tetanus shots out of 10, as we did last time. What I give the rest of these? So forgettable. I am going to go to 5 tetanus shots out of 10 for this movie. How about you?
Yeah, this one, I'll agree. It's 5 tetanus shots out of 10 for this one.
Right. Why don't you go ahead and bring us through the A plot, B plot, C plot of Saw 5?
Well, Saw, hold on, let me see. There's the agent's plot line. What I would say his is wrapped up in Hoffman's, right?
Yes.
And then there's the 5 people. It's really it, right? I mean, what else? I mean, there's more flashback stuff.
Yeah.
So whatever. So 5, it starts off with Strom. He had just killed Jeff, and then he finds a secret door in the room that Jigsaw died in, and he goes through the secret door and he gets knocked out by, we're guessing Hoffman at this point, right? Because everybody else is dead,
Right.
In his pig mask, and he wakes up and he's in a trap. He ends up, we'll talk about the trap later, but anyway, he ends up surviving the trap, but Hoffman did not expect him to survive. Hoffman was going to try to walk out of that warehouse, because this is the same warehouse. All of these things happen in the same warehouse at the same time. So we're talking all of the plot of Saw 3, all of the plot of, I would say the ending of Saw 4 happened here. So we're talking the whole end of Riggs's game, where Hoffman was, turned out to be the traitor or whatever. That was all in the same warehouse. Strom ended up showing up and shooting Jeff in the same room at the same time. So all of these things all culminated in this. So everybody else is dead except for Hoffman. And Hoffman was assuming that Strom would be dead too. He did not expect him to survive the game, but he did. So Hoffman was coming out of there with the little girl, which was Jeff's daughter, right?
Yes.
He's big hero, and he was supposed to win these awards, and nobody was supposed to ask questions and just say you're the greatest ever. But Strom is now bringing up questions, right?
Right.
Of okay, well, he's the only one that survived here. Strom knew that there was an accomplice. He tracked the accomplice to that place, everyone else is dead. It's got to be Strom, right? So he investigates further, and he basically finds more and more evidence saying that Hoffman is the guy.
Right.
And he doesn't have any, like, definitive evidence, but so he, like, keeps getting deeper and deeper in to try to get, what he can on Hoffman to catch him red-handed kind of thing. That's the whole A-plot. Essentially, it's just them kind of going from place to place, like trying to play, like, 4D chess, trying to trap each other. Because, I mean, yeah, Hoffman knows that Strom is onto him. So Strom is in the hospital. He goes to visit Agent Perez, who is now dead. Right? Like, very confusing. Like, what do you mean she's dead?
Just blood everywhere.
Right, yeah, there's blood all over the bed. And this is a hospital. Hospitals do not leave blood all over the bed. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
that is not a thing that they do. So yeah, there's blood all over the bed. Perez is supposedly dead, which is my guess is she just didn't want to do the movie, or she had another movie going on or something. And so they're like, oh, well, we have to kill her because that's what you do when they turn down the role, right? They're like, oh, she's just dead. And so then Strom is all like, oh, I'm going to get back out there and get him. And his boss is like, hey, you need to take a break. Like, your partner just died. You just literally went through this medical emergency trap situation. Like, you need to, like, take some time off.
Right.
And he's like, I'll never take time off. Like, I know, somebody on the inside is doing this. I need to, get out there and catch him. So Hoffman basically knows that Strom is very close to figuring his secret out. So he starts framing Strom. Because basically in this movie, we find out that Hoffman became partnered with Jigsaw because his sister, and it's very weird because, like, I thought it was his wife or girlfriend for a while, the way that he acts about her. But anyway, his sister was killed by this, creepy white power guy. I don't know. He's obviously not a nice guy. So he goes to jail for 5 years, but he was supposed to be in prison for 25 for murder, but he gets out on a technicality. And so because he gets out on the technicality, Hoffman wants to punish him. So what he does is he creates a Jigsaw trap and then kills the guy. It's a trap that, he tries to get out of the trap. We'll talk about the trap later. He tries to get out of the trap, and he does succeed, but the trap is just rigged. Like, he's just supposed to die. So he gets killed, and then he does he cuts the little jigsaw piece out of his back. He does everything. He makes the tape about let's play a game and all that stuff. So, like, he does all this stuff to frame it as a Jigsaw murder, and no one knows any different, right? So he basically framed Jigsaw for this murder. I mean, what's Jigsaw going to do? Come out and say that wasn't me?
That one wasn't.
I didn't do that one. No, so he's not going to say that. So he's basically framing him there. Of course, Jigsaw takes offense to this, and kidnaps him, and basically puts him through, like, a little mini trial kind of thing, but not really. It's not like a real trial. He just basically tells him, like, I could kill you, but I'm not, because I think you have potential.
Right.
And he's like, you can kill me if you want, go right ahead. Like, I'm the guy you're looking for, or you can see where this goes. And he kind of teaches him that, like, you understood the point of the game, you just didn't play it the right way. And so then we see that all of the murders that happened in the first movie and the second movie, and the third movie even, are all set up by Hoffman. Like, he's been involved since, like, the beginning.
Correct.
Which, again, makes like, this is one thing I was very confused about, is that in the first movie they were like, oh, it's this serial killer that's killed people before, and they only specifically mentioned 3 incidents, right?
Yeah.
So there's at least one more, okay, which is the one that Hoffman set up, which means there's at least got to be, I would say at least 2 more before that, right? Because Jigsaw had already solidified himself as being Jigsaw at that point, right? You can't frame Jigsaw for doing something if he hadn't done it at least more than once. Like, there's no pattern if it's just done the one time. So I would say at least twice, probably more than that. But again, so we're talking, there's at least 3 more murders that fit the Jigsaw profile that they just didn't mention in the first one.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's a hell of a stretch. So you're saying like Danny Glover and all his crazy obsession never researched or never found out about any other cases? Because they only ever talked about those 3. All the crazy newspaper clippings that were all over those walls were only about those 3.
Yep.
Anyway, I was just like sitting here. I'm like, why are they going backwards? Like, they don't need to go backwards. So they wanted to put Hoffman there from day one for some reason. And they had to like retcon the universe to do that. And they did. So anyway, he becomes Jigsaw's partner, and then him and Amanda become kind of like rivals. And then you see that he was basically the one that set up the game for her, so that obviously she didn't know the game was being set up for her, as we saw in Saw 3. Whatever. So that's kind of that. This is Hoffman's whole plot. And then at the very end, he kind of lures Strom to, where he's at, lures him. It's convoluted how he does. We like forces him to knock him into the trap, I guess. But in this case, being in the trap box is the only thing that saves you. We'll talk about the trap later. But yeah, so Strom ends up getting killed, and then Hoffman wins the game.
Yes.
Okay. That's a plot. Right? I guess that's like the moving Saw along in the franchise plot is that one, right?
Yes.
And then we have B plot, which I like to call like 5 little idiots because these people are just so stupid. Anyway, there's 5 people. There's let's see, journalist guy, Dexter's wife.
Yeah.
I mean, lady
crackhead
in a suit. Yeah, like crackhead, rich kid, and then like the fire marshal or whoever she was. Anyway.
Yeah.
So if we're leaving out the traps, there's not really much to this storyline, but we'll leave out the traps, and it'll be really quick. Okay, so basically, like, first room, one person dies because nobody has any patience, right?
Yep.
Okay, second room, one person dies because they don't have any spatial awareness.
They don't know basic physics and math.
Okay, third room, another person dies, murdered. Another person was murdered.
Murdered, absolute murdered.
Yeah, another person was murdered because they don't understand, 1, how electrical impulses work, and 2, they just don't understand the whole point of this game. Like, you didn't see it coming. Anyway, whatever. And then the fourth room is the dumbest room. They basically follow exactly what they are told to do when they had, I don't even know how many other options. They could have done a million different things, but instead they did exactly what they were supposed to do. And then I guess they survived, but They're just abandoned. Like, at the end of it, they're like, yeah, they made it through. Anyway, like, they don't even say like what happened, like if they made it out or nothing. Like, they show that the door was open. I think Strom saw him and was like, hey, you okay? And then immediately leaves the room. And doesn't try to call help for them, doesn't try to do anything for them. Just like, oh yeah, okay, guys are bleeding all over the ground. It's, yeah, I gotta go find this Hoffman guy.
No. Julie Benz is there, and Special Agent Neckwound shows up, and then he determines that it's Strom was the next Jigsaw apprentice.
Right. Well, but Strom was there first.
Yeah.
And he just left him there.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, he left, and then Erickson came later, and then found her. But that was like, whatever. So Hoffman frames Strom for being the guy who set up this B plot trap. So then Erickson then thinks that Strom is the guy that's helping Jigsaw, when in reality it's Hoffman, and he set the whole thing in.
Yes.
And that's it. And then basically at the end, Strom is dead and Hoffman wins.
Yeah.
End of movie.
End of movie.
Okay, so the traps. So the traps in this movie, the very first one is
the pendulum.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, no, I'm thinking of the first one from the next.
The very first one would be Strom's trap with the water.
Yeah. So it's like when he was supposed to die in this one, they put his head in a box, like an aquarium box, and then they like fill it up with water. And like he was just supposed to drown. But like he apparently had a pen in his pocket and he gave himself an emergency tracheotomy and was breathing through that. So when the people broke into the warehouse and found everybody, they found him there with his head in water, but he was breathing through the hole in his neck. So he survived. But then Hoffman was kind of like, irked.
He was like,
he's like, I'm supposed to be the hero,
right. Yeah.
So yeah, he didn't do that. So that was that trap. Then the second trap is the pendulum. This is the one that Hoffman set up to mock Jigsaw, but the Jigsaw didn't actually do it. So anyway, it was this guy was strapped down to a table, and it was like a pendulum swinging back and forth, like a big bladed pendulum. And he was supposed to stick his hands in these like crusher things, and then push his hands all the way through to like hit these lever, and then it was supposed to come down, crush his hands completely, and then raise back up, and that was supposed to stop the pendulum. So he actually did that. He actually crushed his hands and did that, but instead of the pendulum stopping, it just kept going. And then after the pendulum completely cut him in half, then his neck opened up. Like he was held down by his neck, and then his neck opened up and let him out. So it was rigged. Like he was not going to get out.
Right.
But again, he set it up to mock Jigsaw. And then when Jigsaw finds out about this later, he not only chastises him for letting them, for not giving them an actual chance, but two, he also says, "Oh, you're this shoddy workmanship." Which he also tells him that he's doing a bad job later when he's setting up the rack from Saw 3.
Yeah, take pride in your work, man.
Yeah, take pride in your work. Like you can't just change the gear out. You got to change the grease that you put on the gear. Like I don't know what the hell they're talking.
Right,
like,
and that's
it's fucking grease. Why does it matter what kind it is?
And this is where we get the tetanus shot joke, which I had completely forgot about when I made the autos for the last time, and there it was. Like, yes.
But again, this is a new scene filmed with Jigsaw and Amanda.
Yep.
With Hoffman, in an existing movie trap that they were, again, they keep flashing back to the first 3 movies.
Yeah.
So I guess we get a little bit of all the traps from the first 3 movies because they kept showing all of those. What are the other? Oh, the trap. I don't know what the hell the trap at the end was with the glass box and the crushing walls that Strom got stuck in. I don't know what the hell the point of that was.
I think the idea was, in order to pass his test, all he had to do was trust Hoffman, and he would have lived. But instead, he gave Hoffman the escape path, and he just got crushed.
Yeah, it was goofy.
Right.
Was there any other traps besides the 5 people traps?
No.
I didn't think so. I was going to say, like, in the A plot, there's not that many traps.
No.
Okay. So then the traps in the B plot, this is the 5 people room to room to room. Anyway, first room, they all have neck collars on, and the neck collars are all connected to, I guess, like, whatever, pulleys on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's one continuous cord. So the cord goes from, like, one person to the next to the next to the next. And then it goes all the way to, like, this, pin. And if they pull the pin, then they only have 60 seconds before
it gets reeled in.
It gets reeled in, and there's blades there. So like if they get reeled all the way in, their head will get cut off.
Right.
So basically they have to, and there's little glass boxes like of distance in front of them. I would say like a good, I don't know, 3 meters, right?
Yeah.
In front of them. And they have to go get the key out of there to unlock the lock on their neck. Now, the twist of this trick is supposed to be that all the keys are the same.
Yep.
Right? And they were somehow supposed to fucking know that, which that doesn't make any sense to me. The thing that pisses me off is this is a very, very easy trap to beat.
Yes.
They were, okay, the investigative journalist guy, the smart guy, told them all, don't move too far, there's a pin over there. If you pull too far, the pin's going to pull out, and then that's probably going to start this timer. So don't do that. Now, they were moving quite a bit. Like, there was multiple of them that were, like, at least halfway out. Right?
Yes.
So, like, if you go, okay, everybody just back up to your little booth, and then one person walk up, get the key, they walk back, next person walks up, get the key, they walk back, without even pulling the fucking pin on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even have to do that, but of course somebody panics, and they were like, whatever the hell they were doing. The one guy was like the junkie guy went to go run for his box. So the journalist guy yanked his back, to stop him from killing the rest of them. And in doing so, pulled the pin out of the wall.
Yep.
And then 4 of them did that. They went forward, got the key, went back, went forward, got the key, went back. And then of course the last 2, the guy's got to, push too far, and then he fell to, like, dropped his key on the ground, and then he was pulling too far to get the key on the ground, and then the last lady didn't bother moving because she was, like, frozen with fear, so then her head got cut off.
Now, how would you beat this trap? Would you say just stand underneath the blade?
Well, I would just say, like, if everybody else just stands underneath the blade and one person moves forward, gets the key, and then you just take turns, the pin wouldn't even been pulled.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have even started the 60-second timer.
Yep.
Yeah, they had a 15-minute timer to get out of the room because there was, like, nail bombs in all the corners. But, like, they could have very easily done that. I mean, it doesn't... Again, the guy had already called out the pin. They already knew it was there. And the guy had to be super creepy. He knew he was being super creepy, and he's freaking everybody out. And so, of course, you're already in a freak-out situation. You're freaking people out even more. A guy that's super fucking twitchy. Probably don't want to push him that far.
No.
But that's what he did. Anyway, they're all idiots. The second one is even dumber.
Yeah.
The second one is there's 4 holes in the wall, but there's only keys for 3. I don't know why they even have 4. But there's 4 kind of like grates that open up to like concrete like sewer pipes in the walls, right?
Yes.
Now when you look at these things, they are very clearly big enough to fit at least 2 people in these things.
Oh, easily 3.
Yeah, I'm saying if you just like, slide them in like logs, you could probably fit everybody in one. I mean, they were pretty fucking big. It does not take a genius to figure out, hey, open up 1, 2 people go in 1. Open up 2 people go, I mean, it was very easy to figure this out. But of course, they're all like trying to like one up each other. So, investigative journalist guy, for no reason, starts hitting other people with the pipe, right? To antagonize them. Why are you, again, we're already in a stressful situation. Do not add more stress to it. He was a smart guy. He was thinking clearly, like he could have very easily directed everybody. Because when you're in a situation like that, if one person is directing you, they will listen. Anyway, so yeah, they had to smash these jars up in the ceiling, and then there was all these keys that fell down, and some of the keys were like blank keys, and some of the keys had symbols on them. And there was 3 symbols, 3, sewer pipes. And so of course they all fight each other over the stupid things, and then the journalist guy ends up not getting a key, so then he gets blown up by the nail bombs. Which again, just dumb. Very easily could have fit 2 people in one of those. And those things were deep too. They were like at least like 10 feet deep.
Oh, easily.
I was just sitting there like, how are you people this stupid?
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, I guess. Now, the only one that, would take a little bit of thinking, and this is only if you don't understand how electricity works, right? Is this next room. This is the 3rd room now. Now, it's like there's a bathtub in the middle of the room. There is 5 locks on the door. Now, in order to get a lock to open, you have to get the power into the bathtub to create a circuit.
Yes.
Now, none of them are long enough to reach into the bathtub. So you have to do something to extend that range. Of course, the only thing you have is bodies, right? Now, they rightfully figure out, if there was 5 of us, well, I don't think they figured it out. Well, she doesn't say that she figured it out until after they do what they do, but she very clearly says, well, if there was 5 of us here and we all grabbed that thing and then put our, other hand in the water, we would have all had a little shock, but it all would open. Because there's only 3 of us now, it's going to be dangerous. So anyway, what they do to solve this is the one lady, Dexter's wife, stabs the other girl in the neck. Then they throw her body into the bathtub and then connect all of the wires to her body.
Right.
And then it opens up all the locks, and then it opens the door into the next room. Now, this is probably the part that pisses me off the most is this. So they get into the last room. Now, the last room is, it's like a long kind of like, one of those, like doctor manipulation thing. There's like the big plastic gloves that you have to reach into and like a big plastic box.
Yep.
It's like those, only there's no plastic gloves. There's blades and there's like a little, jar in the bottom of this contraption. So you're supposed to like stick your hand in and the blades cut your hand, and you have to get a total of 10 pints of blood into this jar. And then once that fills up, the weight will unlock the door. Now, there's only 2 of them now. So each one of them has to give 5 pints of blood.
Which is the maximum that you really should be able to
use. That's the maximum you can do, and that's if you have, like, medical personnel standing by.
Right.
Ready to, like, rehydrate you immediately and stuff like that, and probably give you plasma and shit or something. But, like, that's, so, like, you could technically do that and live, but it's probably not going to be a good idea.
No.
Now, here's the thing that pisses me off. They're in there. They figure out what they have to do. The door to the other room is still open.
You mean there's a body in there?
And they have more time. Dude, okay. This is the part that really upsets me is, one, she was like, what about the water in the bathtub? Good call, lady. Like, that's smart. That's smart thinking. And right. They just go, no, that won't work. Why? And they're like, oh, well, look, when you have to put your hand in it, it lifts these bars up. And if the bars aren't lifted up, then the liquid won't count. Like, okay, genius, you can put your fucking hand in there to hold the bar open and then pour the water in.
Yep.
Like, if your hand is in there, like the machine is not smart enough to know if you're actually cutting your hand or not. It just knows that your hand is in there.
Yeah.
Like, again, they could have very easily taken it. I mean, literally filled it up with their hands. It doesn't matter. Any amount of liquid that you get in there is going to lessen the amount of blood you have to put in there. Okay. What about pissing in it? Right. It's liquid. It's not going anywhere. But I think like the worst thing here is that they have a dead body.
Yes.
In the other room
with 10 pints of blood.
With 10 pints of blood in it, and the door is still open. They walk in there. They're in there thinking about it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, the door's already locked. There's no reason for that person to stay in the bathtub, disconnect all the electrical wires, drag her dead ass into the other room.
Right. And shove her hand.
Yeah, then stick her whole body in there. I mean, you get the pulp in there and everything. Yeah, you'll be fine. Nobody has to cut anything.
Yep.
Just idiots.
So you're saying that's a low point for you?
Yeah. I mean, just stupid people. So that's all the traps.
All right, so why don't you start off with your highlights then?
Highlights is, again, we get more Jigsaw backstory, but this time it's more focused on motivation.
Right.
It's more, because he's basically teaching Hoffman the ropes kind of thing, and he's teaching Hoffman, he's teaching us what his whole philosophy is, right? Yes. And his whole, like, choice-based thing. And again, this one, it is good with the choices. The only ones that don't have choices are the ones that were obviously rigged by Hoffman, right? So that your choices didn't matter, right?
Right.
I mean, the 5-person thing, yes, they all had choices. They all could have very easily survived, but they were all just shitty people that were literally backstabbing each other to live. But, at least, we got to see Jigsaw's backstory, what he was trying to do, like his philosophy he was trying to have. I mean, I did like that they showed the background on some of the other traps and stuff, just, it's kind of like they were in the background scenes, but it was like, we get to see them, kind of talking amongst themselves while everything was being set up. It was kind of interesting. I like that. But again, and this one, they did follow the rules. They did follow Jigsaw's rules for the most part, except for the one that Hoffman did, but that was because he was just mocking Jigsaw. He wasn't on board at that time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he essentially became Dexter and Jigsaw at the same time.
Right.
Exacting his own revenge and then framing it on someone else.
Right. So what do you got? What are your high points?
Tobin Bell, even though he's not in it a lot, he still is great. Like I said, it just, like I said, we have, essentially you don't need a prequel movie of Jigsaw anymore because we have seemingly every piece of his backstory.
Right. Like I'm saying, we even have a backstory for the damn pig mask at this point. I don't know what other backstory we're going to have.
Oh, just you wait.
Well, I'm just saying, like, again, they retconned that there was at least 3 murders before the first murder. 3 murders before the razor wire guy.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, who knows? There could have been 10 more. I guess that could be the prequel, is him doing the things before he met Hoffman.
Right.
Is that what it is? Is that...
Just wait.
More
retcons are coming.
I bet you. Oh, yeah. But they don't even have to retcon it. Well, I guess they may have made that choice. I'll find out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've seen up to 5 before. I've seen this one before. 6. This is the first time I watched it. Is this time? So.
No, like I said, I agree with your highlights, and I'll roll my low points. My low point's the same as you. The stupidity level of those 5 people is fucking absurd. If all 5 of them in there, they could easily have moved that water into that room and no bloodshed would have ever happened.
Like I said, they had multiple choices and they chose none of them.
Right. Which is amazing.
Right. Yeah, just complete idiocy.
Yeah. I don't like Hoffman at all. I know you're not supposed to like him, but I just don't like him at all. Like, Jigsaw was trying to say, hey, like, essentially setting up the guy in the rack, essentially, right? That this is a human being, show some compassion. And you can tell that he's just like, okay, I'm all for murdering, but I'm not going to have compassion while doing it.
Right. I did like the kind of subplot there that they were having is the reason why he was like that is because he wasn't actually tested.
Right.
And that's why Amanda had him have a rivalry, because Amanda survived one of his tests.
Yes.
And he has not. So he is working with Jigsaw, but he has not actually been tested yet.
And it's been hinted at in Saw 4 and 5 that he is yet to face the test. You don't think you'll go untested. That was, Saw 4 beginning was actually the ending of Saw 4.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and like I said, the stupidity of it all was just absurd. What about your low points? Obviously, the stupid people. The 5
stupid people. Yeah, those traps were just easily survivable. It didn't take a genius to figure that out.
No.
The opening graphics for this movie are atrocious, and it literally looks like they went into whatever Windows Movie Maker generic program, and they looked up default horror title movie graphics and then just stuck it in there. They are the most generic, crappy looking things. I think one of the other things that's funny is the they have a scene where Hoffman is giving a eulogy for all the people that have died.
Yeah.
And you see the pictures of the people that are displayed out there, and you can clearly tell that they only have the rights to the pictures that have already been used in the film franchise.
Yep.
Because those pictures are very clearly like really bad Photoshop jobs of like other pictures that they put their head on other like bodies. It was very, very bad looking. Those are funny. Just bad graphics altogether. Which I mean, the gore is decent, but I guess it has to be, right? I mean, this kind of movie, it has to be. But yeah, and then again, like I said before, like there was no other mentions of other murders in the first movie. When, like I said, I'm going to say at least 3. There's probably a lot more than that, but there has to be 3 because there has to be at least one murder that Jigsaw did. Has to be a second murder to prove that there's a pattern involved.
Yep.
And then then the third one is the one that Hoffman did, which is attributed to him. So there would be at least 3 more.
Right. Cecil, the first guy, if Danny Glover did his work, he would know that Jigsaw had a wife and someone killed the baby. And where's that guy at? You know, the junkie from the clinic.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that one he may have hidden because he knew that one had a direct personal connection to him. We don't know what happened to that body or anything.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, he may have hidden it. You know, who knows what happened there. But I'm saying is that there's at least multiple more. And Detective Tapp, Danny Glover, he never had any of the clippings or files from those other killings. So, like,
right.
And then again, Hoffman wasn't around then, but he was supposedly on every case.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So why don't you give us number of tetanus shots out of 10 for this one first?
I don't.
This insults everyone's intelligence.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just 4. I'll give it 4 tetanus shots out of 10.
4. I will agree with you. 4. Yeah, I saw this one in theaters as well. And I'm just going like, this is absurd. Like, this is getting stupid in the franchise.
Like I said, I don't remember if I've seen any of these in theater. Honestly, I don't remember. I know that at one point I watched a bunch of them to get ready to watch one in the theater, but I don't know if I ever did. I think those plans may have fallen apart between when we watched all the movies and then when it came out. Or maybe we got to the end of the movies and we're like, maybe we don't even want to watch the next one. I mean, that might have been what happened. I don't remember. But I know that 3, 4, and 5 I watched all at the same time. And I only had seen them one time before this. So there's a lot of things that I was confusing between the movies, but that's because I watched them all at the same time. And fun fact, I watched them all at the same time this time too. I watched them all in a row in one day.
Yes. All right. So last one for this episode is Saw 6. Let's see here. A plot is the guy's game. B plot is Jigsaw and the insurance company. C plot is Jill and Hoffman. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah.
All right. So A plot is essentially a guy who created health insurance policy that he's very proud of. You know, essentially chooses who lives and who dies. How convenient, based on the policy. Like, oh, you know, you've given, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to us every year, and when you need help, piss off. And he's very proud of this fact.
Right. Again, he literally has a group of people that their sole job is to make sure that people, when they file a claim, that they get rejected based on some prior loophole.
Right, because the guy that we're introduced to he had a malignant tumor. No,
he had a cyst in his jaw that he got surgery for like 25 years.
He's like 30 years ago, yeah,
right.
And he's like, well, that was a pre-existing condition, so fuck you. You know that could lead to gum disease, and gum disease leads to your heart disease. Therefore, that cyst you had a pre-existing condition, so piss off. You don't get benefits for anything, so you're gonna die now. Bye. So he goes through the games, and we'll get into the traps. I'll just go through his plot right now. And he goes to the games. He has to help his lawyer tries to survive a maze. Another one, well, like I said, I can't go into the traps much. Another one is he...
Well, just say he's pitted against his other fellow employees.
There you go.
In games of survival.
There you go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, until he gets all the way to the end. And then when you think it's his game, oh no, it's the wife and son of the guy with the cyst that was denied coverage. It's their game. They get to choose if he lives or dies.
Right. Yep.
End of plot A.
Yeah. There's not a lot to plot A.
No, that's where
really
that's where all the traps are.
Yes. Plot B is, Jill is now being followed and investigated, and she's talking about like all the stuff. Journalists are going after her. It's like, oh, now it's publicly known Jigsaw is dead. Oh, she's the wife of Jigsaw. Everyone's like in the limelight for her. Like I said, the reporter's trying to get coverage there. She was talking to Hoffman about it, and Jill gets a box from the lawyer, and we don't see what's inside of it. But we get even more background. We find out I
think the box was in one of the earlier movies.
It was,
but whatever, it doesn't matter.
No, it was in this one.
No, I think she gets the box in, I think, 4 or 5.
But we find out more about the box.
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't find out what's in the box at all. We just see her get the box. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So it's dealing with all that publicity and, like I said, being in the limelight, and essentially we find out that she's known about all of this the entire time.
Oh,
she's essentially. I know that she was there in the warehouse. She kind of witnessed Cecil dying. She was there and watching people as they reshot other scenes from 4 and 5 to have her there as well. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, they brought everybody back so they could refilm more scenes in addition to background, because these are scenes that were supposed to have happened in the backgrounds of the other movies.
Yeah.
So now we're going into like some of these scenes have been refilmed like 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
Add new characters and new layers to them.
Right. And essentially, her game is that she is putting Hoffman through a test. Because it's always like, hey, the first 5 files were for you. The 6th one was about you. You haven't been tested yet. I'm taking over the legacy of John Kramer, not you. And then she puts him into a trap, which we'll discuss later on. And she even gets her own little game over moment as well. It's no. I'm going to say this right now. None of them were ever as strong as Tobin Bell's game over from the first movie.
No.
At all.
Correct.
So yeah, even she dons the pig mask. She is part of all this stuff, and she knew all along. So we find out about all this stuff. We don't find out what the envelope is that she delivers to an office until the next movie.
Oh, do it. Well, I was going to say they always have a stinger for something that's going to happen in the next movie.
Oh, that's the stinger.
Okay.
Oh, there's another stinger. Did you notice there's a post-credit scene?
No, I did. I did not. I did not stick around the credits for any of these movies.
Yeah. I believe this is the only one. The other plot is Hoffman, and because Perez is, hey, look, I'm alive.
Yeah.
What? You lied to me this entire time?
My schedule was clear this time when you called.
Right.
That's what happened.
You should have told me this stuff. And they're trying to find Strom. We see that he kept a hand that somehow doesn't get crushed by Strom and from the grate. And like, hey, there's the Special Agent Nekwin Erickson is doing an investigation along with the tech team and Perez. And they're like, hey, there's stuff that's very different. All the fingerprints that are supposed to be Strom's have some sort of like chemical on there, something like that these were all done after he died. So there's clearly someone else that's being part of this.
Okay, here's the thing. He just put the hand in a freezer.
Yeah.
The hand was in a bag.
Yeah.
How would Freon get on the hand?
Leaky freezer? I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, that would be like if you put food in the freezer, it does not have Freon on it because you would be fucking dead.
Correct.
You can't eat Freon. If Freon was on your food in your freezer, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
So how the hell did Freon get on a frozen hand that was in a plastic bag in a freezer?
It's a great question.
I was just like, again, when they're explaining this, I'm like, that's the dumbest explanation for knowing that the hand was dead that I've ever heard. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like even when you freeze something in liquid nitrogen, like you dip it in the liquid nitrogen, but that, I don't know, whatever. I don't get it.
Right.
But yeah, that was the dumbest explanation I ever heard. So like Hoffman is then like, oh no, like he figures out like, oh, they're gonna figure me out. Like they got me cornered, right?
Right.
And then they're talking like, oh yeah, we found the tape from the pendulum murder, which we know is a fake tape, right? Like, oh, okay. Like,
right.
How did you know that? And they're like, oh, because it was the same voice that was on Strom's tape. Oh,
right, and this is after Jigsaw's dead.
Right, so they're like, oh, okay, so it's the same guy who did it. So we have this magical tech person who can decode this whole thing.
Yes, it was scrambled. They're going to unscramble.
Right, and this magical tech person works in a basement in the middle of nowhere, completely by themselves.
Yes.
Which is not how crime labs work. I'm sorry, there's like 100 people in the lab at all times.
Correct.
But yeah, one poor lady in a like dingy old basement in the middle of nowhere, working by herself.
Yes. They also point out that the jigsaw pieces cut out was different. The coroner is like, I looked at every body that's come through from these games, and this is what the first one was more surgical.
Yeah, they said the knife used for the pendulum guy and
was serrated.
Yeah, it was a serrated blade.
Right, as opposed to like a scalpel.
Right.
And he's like, oh shit. Look over there.
Yeah. Like very obvious. But I don't understand. I mean, I guess it worked out for him, but I don't understand what he's doing. Like, yeah, okay. Are you coming with us to the lab? Sure. Just shoot him. You know what I mean? Just fucking shoot him. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Because he's called away from the game because like, oh, this is urgent. Oh, I see your clock's counting down to something. Yeah, I did that before I left. All right. And like, descramble the voice card, like, it's Hoffman. Oh shit. So he stabs Special Agent Nekun Erickson.
Right.
He throws coffee on Perez's face, and then she blindly shoots the poor IT person.
Right.
And then he stabs her like, who else knows? Everybody knows. You're lying.
Oh, that means nobody knows.
Right. So then he meets up with like I said, Jill, and she puts him through a test, and we'll get to that trap. And I will tell you right now, the post-credit scene was a new thing filmed, and it's Amanda going to the little girl, to Jeff's daughter. It's like, don't trust that person, and that saves you.
That's it? That's the whole thing?
Yeah.
So what, the little girl's going to come back?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Again, this is my first time watching 6. I've never seen anything after it, so it'll be all new.
I don't think I realized there was a post-credit scene until today when I watched it.
I usually do watch that, but I've been so burned out from these movies. I especially had to watch 3 in a row, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna waste my time. That's like an extra 3 minutes. I don't have that kind of time.
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, Jill does her game over. Now, let's get into the plot line everyone cares about: the traps.
Right.
Right.
So, let's start off with the guy one, because those are the best ones I get. So yeah, insurance guy, his first trap is he's put in a breath holding contest
With the janitor.
Yeah, with an asthmatic, smoking janitor.
50-year-old.
Like, yeah, 50-something years old. Like, okay, that's real fair. But anyway, so like basically they're on a ventilators, and for every time they breathe in, these like, I don't know, 2 concrete blocks like move closer to their chest.
Yeah.
And then like the more you breathe in, the closer it gets to like, eventually get crushed. And a shocker, the 50-year-old smoking out of shape, maintenance guy can't hold his breath as long as the, in shape, insurance dude can. So his chest gets shattered, and then he, gets out and he gets a key, and then he realizes there's bombs on a bomb on each wrist and a bomb on each ankle.
Right.
And he has to go through 4 games, and then he gets a key to unlock a bomb for each one of the
games. And his side, it looks like his kidney was removed.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's like a cut in his side. Yeah. I assumed it was like, they took his kidney out because that would be good for like an insurance type person. But
right.
Anyway,
and the bombs are so strapped in there, like he's bleeding underneath it.
Right. Yeah. So
and, like the party, that was like the first clue, the party. And then we get the flashback to him meeting Jigsaw, who's like, bitch, you don't get to choose who lives and dies.
Yeah. So yeah, he's talking to him as a party, and he basically learns that he has some formula, which essentially means that he makes money while people don't get covered. So
and
that's
Jigsaw was one of them.
Yeah, Jigsaw was one of them, that he found this new treatment that could have saved his, cured his cancer, and he told him he couldn't get it. And not only did he tell him he couldn't get it, but he told him that if he went and got it on his own, that they would also stop coverage. It's like, wow, dude, that's a little far, but whatever.
Right.
So
they're
yeah,
gonna start coverage anyway, so just go fucking do it.
Right. Yeah. So the second game is there's his like secretary, who's like, I don't know, 50 probably. His secretary and then the intern are both standing on like little platforms, and he has he's holding a chains in each of his hand that are holding their necks up. And so essentially he has to choose one of them. And he's saying like, oh yeah, we got this 50-year-old lady, but she's got a family, and they're showing pictures of like all her kids and her grandkids, and like all this happy family type stuff, and they're like, and this kid has no family.
No one's gonna care.
No one cares. And they show all these pictures of him like going, oh, I'm so lonely and sad. Like, where do you get these pictures from? Like, no, who's taking a picture of him if he's all lonely and sad? Like, somebody else has to be there. But anyway, so of course he chooses his 50-year-old secretary. The intern kid gets hung,
proving that the healthy person he chose, he didn't choose.
Right.
He picked the human side.
Right. So then he unlocks. So now both of his hands have no bombs on them. It's just his feet. And then his next one is the lawyer, who has a giant spike gun, I guess, strapped to her chest. And she has to run through a maze that has a lot of like steam jets. And essentially like, she can't make it through the steam jets because they're too, hot and stuff. And so he has the ability to turn a lever that then shoots the steam at him, so she can get past. And then, they have to like go back and forth to where like they both get burned a bit, but like, they try to help each other to take it out. Anyway, so she gets all the way through to the end. And then she has to unlock a lock to get this giant spear gun thing off of her chest. And then that's when she sees an x-ray and sees that the cut in his side is not a kidney being removed. That's where the key is. And then the only tool she's given to get it out is a circular saw.
And she goes for the jugular.
And then she immediately starts attacking him with it. Not like asking, hey, can I have the key? Or, hey, can we do this? No, she just leaps at him with the saw. He defends himself. I mean, he's not even trying to be aggressive or anything. He's like trying to tell her like, hey, wait, calm down. We can figure this out. And she's just like, attacking him with a saw. Now, this spear gun thing is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. This is the one I was talking about earlier, that it's very clear that if she turned her head to the side and leaned back, that spike would go straight up and hit nothing.
Yes.
Because it was mounted to her chest. Now, she is a woman, okay? So the chest is pointing up at an angle out.
Uh-huh.
So, like, I mean, literally, like, she would have had to lean forward over it to get it through her neck like she did. It didn't make any sense. It's like the most avoidable trap I've ever seen, and yet she decides to attack him and try to kill him anyway. So she dies. And he survives, and he gets to unlock one of his legs. And then he gets to the merry-go-round, right? The
Yep.
whatever you call it. So then it's all his 6 dog pack or wolf pack that he called them. These are the people that find all the loopholes that save him all the money and get him to cover it or anything, right? So there's a shotgun that holds 6 rounds, and essentially the merry-go-round spins and stops, and then he has to stick his hand in this machine and get like stabbed through his hand to stop it from shooting at that person. But he can only do that twice, so he can only say in 2 of the 6 people.
Right.
And so he chooses like the new girl that nobody knows. And then he also chooses like the most manipulative woman on the thing. And he lets everybody else die.
Yep.
So, yeah, whatever. So those 2 people survive. He gets the last key, he unlocks his leg, and then he goes down. And then we see, because there was like kind of cutaways to where we saw a wife and child that were trapped in this room that had like a big jug of acid and like a sprinkler system above them.
Right.
So you're assuming that, and then there's a big lever on the wall that says live and die. And so you're assuming that, okay, he's going to have to make the choice. Like you're kind of alluded to that this is his wife and kid.
Well, because it said, oh, we're here because of your father.
Right. Yeah. So like you're basically kind of, fooled into believing that this is his wife and daughter.
Yes.
And that, he was talking to someone on the phone earlier that sounded like he was blowing off his wife to hang out with his lawyer, like it was an attractive younger woman. You're assuming that's what it was, but in reality, he wasn't married at all. He was talking to his sister, who was the other person in the cage, who was the investigative reporter that was trying to talk to Jill earlier. So basically, when he gets at the end, he realizes it's not his game at all. He doesn't get to make the choice. The wife and son of the guy that he didn't give the coverage to, who ended up dying because of it, get to make the choice whether he lives or dies, and they make the choice where he dies. And then he gets, it's the most convoluted thing. He gets stabbed, like a big, like spike trap swings down and sticks him into a wall.
Like giant syringes.
Right, yeah, like giant spike syringes come down to stick him to like this wall, and then it like, the acid gets pumped through the pipes into his body, which then like eats away his torso.
Yeah, so he gets essentially melted in half.
Right, yeah, he gets melted in half.
Yes.
And
then the final.
Oh, Hoffman essentially gets a modern looking version of Amanda's reverse bear trap.
It's very clean.
Yeah, like I said, it's like a modern version. It's like a refined, like mass-produced version of that bear trap, which he doesn't get out of it because they don't give him something to do to get a key or anything.
No, she straps him down.
Yeah, she straps him down. Like they just, again, it's one of those things where they just expect you to die. You don't expect you to survive like they did with Strom. They don't expect you to live through it. It's just a trap that they put you in to kill you.
Right.
So she does that to him, assuming that he's going to die, but he ends up sticking his face through like these bars. And so when the bear trap goes off, it gets stuck by the bars, and then he just wiggles his head out and gets out.
He does smash his hand to get out of the restraints.
Yeah.
And he does get like a huge chunk taken out of the side of his face.
Oh yeah. He's got a big hole in his cheek, but he survives.
Yep. End of movie. Yes.
Aside from the post-credit scene that I didn't see.
Right. It's a shame, this might set up to something that I don't remember happening. So highlights, I mean, you don't feel bad for the insurance people.
Yeah, that's my highlight too, is like, insurance people are bad and evil, so like thank you for bringing that to light.
Right.
I guess
that's like a very big message. Insurance people suck.
Right. Yeah, insurance people are just trying to get your money, and then they don't want to give you coverage. Like, yep, that is accurate. Thank you. Saw
like,
6.
Like and they even said that they're like, it should be between the patient and their doctor determine what procedures they get, not the insurance company. Like, this is like big, like important topic in the Saw 6 movie.
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is like, yeah, we all know. Thank you, Saw 6, for telling us something we all already fucking know.
Yeah. And they get punished for it.
Yeah. But insurance is evil. I get it. Thank you. High points over.
Yeah. And that, like I said, they refilmed it for like the 5th time, the same scenes that have Jill there now too.
Right. Like, they're going to go back another time, and then they're going to cut away again. And then Jill's going to go talk to whoever the next person is. It's like, really? We're just going to play the telephone game?
Yep.
It's going to keep refilming scenes in the same goddamn warehouse. Like, I want to see the heat map of where people are in this warehouse, because it's probably like, looks like you can see it from fucking space.
I know. Do you have any highlights, or just the same thing?
Evil insurance. That's what I got. That's all I got.
All right. Why don't you roll into your low points then?
Again, this movie, the opening graphic is atrocious. I mean, it's cut and paste of the original one. They just added a 1 next to the 5. I mean, that's literally all they did. That was the exact same thing. The whole thing they did with Perez, that was just dumb. I mean, they bring her back and then immediately kill her anyway. What is the point? Why even bother? You could have just had at least some other no-name FBI person, or just Erickson by himself. Like, I guess they just wanted to bring back another familiar face. Like, oh, look, she was from one of the earlier movies. I guess. I don't know why, what the point of that was, but yeah, that was dumb. And again, in this one, the choices are back to being made by other people.
Yep.
All of these people, like, yeah, I guess I get you're trying to make a point to that guy, but those people don't get to make their own choices. That's supposed to be what Jigsaw is all about. These people make their choices. Everybody gets a chance to live. Like, those people didn't have a chance. Like the people on the merry-go-round with the shotgun. What chance do they have?
0.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're not the ones that make the choice. They're not the ones that make the sacrifice. They literally can't do anything.
Yeah.
Again, they reverted the steps forward that 4 and 5 made, and the whole choice thing. This one just kind of walked back.
Yep.
And then again, I mean, just the retcons that we're doing here. I mean, we're starting just like a laundry list of things that are being retconned and changed for like no reason. Well, like somehow Amanda was there with the guy who killed the baby. She was on the other side of the door, and that's why you couldn't see her. Like, come on. Like, whatever. And then so like that's why Amanda shot. It wasn't because she was just distraught and couldn't get over herself. No,
Hoffman was testing.
Yeah, because Hoffman told her that if she didn't do it, that he would tell Jigsaw what she really did. It's like, I don't think Jigsaw would have cared. I mean, I'm sure he would. It's not something he's just going to be like whatever about. But she already proved herself.
Yep.
She proved that she's not that same person anymore. She was the junkie back then. She's not that junkie anymore.
Yeah.
I think he would have understood it, being as logical and everything that he was. I don't think he would have given a shit.
Right.
Ultimately, I think he would have been upset, I'm sure, but ultimately, I don't think he would have cared.
No. Any other low points?
Nope.
All right. Yes, the severe retconning is getting absurd. It's going to get more absurd in the next 2, and I'm imagining Saw X is going to be even more absurd because it's Saw 1.5. I can't imagine the new stuff they're filming.
I mean, I just can't wait for
can't
wait for when they film him or they come forward and say that he faked his death.
Yes.
That's what I can't wait for him to come forward. I faked my death. I was totally fine. I didn't even have cancer. I'm fine.
Tobin Bell's getting up there in age.
I'm sure. How long was fucking Doug Bradley doing fucking Pinhead for?
Oh, I know.
So these, I mean, franchises are known for making the poor people do the shit way longer than they should.
Yeah, Tobin Bell's 80.
Right. Well, I mean, how old was Robert Englund when he was doing stuff?
Oh yeah, he retired at like 60. He's like, I'm done.
Well, yeah, but he kept coming back anyway.
No, it's his last outing was Freddy vs. Jason.
Right. Well, again, I'm just saying, like, they push these poor guys.
I know.
Horror pushes people to do shit when they're way past their prime.
Yeah. A big low point for me is the fact that they seem to be like retconning stuff to make that Jigsaw seemed as smart and planning as he was. Like Hoffman's storyline throws that all out the window. Like, like Jigsaw knew Amanda was going to do that. Nope, sorry, Hoffman knew she was going to do it because he told her to. I'm like, well, that just undermines Jigsaw. It undermines John Kramer.
Well, it seems like that's what they're doing, is that every time they find like people like criticize or like find fault in the earlier movies, they just like retcon it.
Yeah.
To be like, oh no, they meant to do it because of this. Like, oh,
right.
Okay. Just like how, again, we pointed out in the first one, like Adam doesn't really have a game. Like
right.
He doesn't have a chance. It's supposed to be the whole thing. And the Jigsaw says, oh, the key's over there. By the way, game over. And then he dies.
Yep.
So again, and then they show his body in the next movie. It's like, it's not, there's no escaping that. Yes, he died in there. So then they had to retcon that, showing like, oh no, Amanda went back and killed him. Again,
yeah.
or she messed up by not tying the key where she was supposed to.
Right.
Like it can't just be a mistake. Jigsaw can't just be an asshole.
Yeah, that just keeps ruining it for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, all right. Anything else to say on this episode before we get into our tetanus shots?
Nope.
Okay. So number of tetanus shots out of 10. This is just going downhill fast for me. I'm doing 3 tetanus shots out of 10 because it keeps slapping in the face the legacy of Jigsaw. They're trying to continue his legacy, but also ruin his legacy at the same time.
Right.
That's what I feel they're doing. How about you?
I think it's going to be a first, buddy. I think it's going to be the very first episode where we agree on all 3 movies and give them the same score. I'm also going with the 3 for Saw 6. 3 tetanus shots out of 10.
Which usually, that's very odd for us because sometimes we are, obviously, for cheese amounts, we vary wildly. When movies are great, we tend to agree a lot on those too. And some of the middle ground, we tend to waver a little bit on what we like and what we don't like. We do see that often, but not often, but not like this. Shyamalan, I think we were right on the same point as well. Like we just realized how bad they were getting overall. Yeah, this is we're 6 movies down. We have 4 more to do in 2 episodes, so we're not gonna have to do 3, which is good, but 3D. I've only seen once. Jigsaw, I've only seen once.
Okay, is 3D and the final chapter the same movie?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So it's what? It's 3D / the final chapter, then Jigsaw, then Spiral, then Saw X?
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure I'm watching them in the right order.
Yes, be prepared for more retcons.
Yeah.
I'm just warning you right now. But anyway, will Saw 3D and Jigsaw redeem this final franchise? Spoiler, no. The timer's counting down, and we don't know if we have seconds or hours because we seem like we're trapped here. And the game is most definitely not over, and who knows if it'll ever be at this point in time. So like I said, we're continuing it, and we'll have 2 more episodes of Saw. Then we'll move on to Exorcist, which is going to be interesting, to say the least. And on that note, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.
Thanks.